I got to Hyderabad, and then I was calling friends and asking if anyone knew anyone in the film industry. And there's an old veteran actor called Balaya in the Telugu industry. So I knew Balaya's nephew's friend or something like that. So I went and met him, and I said, you know, it'd be awesome if you could just put me in touch with someone. So he said, yeah, there's actually, I'm guesting on this serial that's shooting at Padmalaya Studios. Why don't you come by? I'm sure I can get you on the production. Now you guys are too young to remember, but there was a TV show that was on air called Veer Hanuman. So I went to the set the next day, and Veer Hanuman, I think they'd gotten the first order of 60 odd episodes, and they were shooting it there. And I went and met the producer, and so the interview lasted for about a couple of minutes. He said, "Oh, Balaya garu, nice to come sit," and he said, "Oh, you speak English and Hindi. That's who we need for the production." Now, mind you, they'd shot 30 odd or 40 odd episodes. And he was excited by the fact that I could speak Hindi. And it was a Hindi serial being shot in Padmalaya. And if they had canned 40 episodes, I was wondering who was doing the Hindi speaking parts. Anyways, first day on the job, so ours not to reason why. I was introduced to the director, and they said, okay, tomorrow you show up, and we'll get you situated in. So damn good. I said, what time? So it said 9 o'clock. So just to be on the safe side, I had my dad drop me off at 8:45. And who's seen Bollywood Calling? All right. There's a scene in Bollywood Calling where the hero arrives to the set, and there's a top angle shot. There's an isolated parking lot, and he's standing by himself, and that was me. And this was straight from there. So I got there at 8:45, and it could have been, the site after a tsunami or something. There was no one. And slowly one person straggled up to me, also a scene straight in Bollywood Calling. He was the cameraman. And he said, "Hi, I'm Prasad." And I said, "Hey, hi, nice to meet you." I said, "Where's everyone?" He said, "They'll come." I said, "Why are you here?" And he said, "Once I become famous, I can be late also." This is what he told me. So the two of us hung out. The guy who asked me to come at 9 showed up at about noon. The actors showed up at 1, and we broke for lunch. Eventually at about 2 o'clock, we all got back together, and the first shot was being set up. The shot was fairly simple. Sita was pining for Ram, and she was sitting under really a horrendous looking plastic tree. I mean, it was really bad. You should have seen the production quality in those days. I mean, even now it sucks, but at least they dress it up, so garishly that you're blinded, you really can't see what's there. But back in those days, they really didn't bother. If it was the sky, it was just painted with those clouds and stuff like, it was like that. So the garden was essentially a small chabutra kind of thing with a plastic tree, and Sita was sitting under it, and she was supposed to cry for Ram, and Veer Hanuman, as the title suggests, was supposed to drop the ring to say he was the emissary from Ram. So this was the shot. The first shot was just a simple, straightforward dolly. The camera, I think they were shooting it on a Betacam back in those days. Was just going to come into a big close-up for Sita. So they were just rehearsing it. Sita showed up on the set, and my first thought was, my God, Sita's healthy. And if someone's been on a vanvas for somewhere, I think we were in the neighborhood of 12 to 14 years eating berries at that point. I mean, sure as hell she's not. And see, I'll tell you, as funny as it is now, and I make fun of it, these are all the things that a writer or director take into account. When you're making it, you cannot not question the background and if it's valid to a character. So anyways, so healthy Sita was under a tree, and we were doing some trial run dollies, and we came in, and she was supposed to cry, and there were pumping a couple of liters of glycerine into her eyes. And when we came in for the close-up, Sita had blue eyeshadow. Noticeable blue eyeshadow. Go back and watch the episodes of Veer Hanuman if you think I'm exaggerating. So I turned to the director and I said, "Sir, she's got eyeshadow." And he looked at me like, "Dude, that's not your job. Just do your job of translating to the actors and that's about it." And the ridiculousness of this image is something that I will eventually put into a film. I couldn't find a place for it in Bollywood Calling. And maybe when I make Bollywood Calling 2, I'm going to have this. Of course, one will have to be ready for all the religious zealots to ban your film and stone the theatre, but we'll get to that. And I sat there in shock as we did a couple of takes, and he said that was great, lovely, and of course it was the and the tears were pouring down and everyone was happy. And that was one of those moments where you truly realize that you don't fit in. And it was an incredibly depressing realization for me that I had dramatically given up everything that I had. I walked into my boss's office, tendered my resignation, did all that for this. And this was sort of indicative of, loosely put, Indian films. It's not to say that the different kind of films that were being shot during that time, that one didn't have the scope to explore the kind of stuff you wanted to do. If you look at my first 4 or 5 films, it was almost entirely in either English or Hinglish, because that was the language that I was most comfortable in. So it became very apparent that what I had in my head, what I wanted to translate, would not happen there. And I thank that day on Veer Hanuman. Obviously, I never went back the next day because I came back and I was truly devastated, and literally over the next week I sat and I wrote Hyderabad Blues, and I wrote it in longhand. I still have the original script with a pencil, and for a week I wouldn't leave my room and I wrote the film. And that sort of set the groundwork for everything that happened in my life, the kind of stories I wanted to tell. And when Hyderabad Blues worked, and this, mind you, is the second part of it. As a first-time filmmaker, you set out and you do something and you don't really know. Actually, let me take a step back. As a filmmaker, you don't really know if anything you've done is good or bad. That's the truth. You make a film the way you want to, you blindly do it, but just rest assured in the fact that all of us, even who've been in the game long enough, are still faking and pretending when we say that it's perfect and everything is, because we don't really know. It's very much an intuitive process. So you go in there when you're directing a scene. How do you know if it's perfect or not? Give 2 directors the same scene, they'll direct it completely differently. Give 2 directors the same shot to pull out the same emotion, to pull out the same line, they'll get it differently. So who's to say what's right or wrong? You go with your intuition. At some point you say, okay, that's good. When you're editing, you can edit a feature for 2 years, or you can edit it in 10 days. The results would be the same or not. There are no absolutes. So it's such an intuitive process, and at some point you just say stop and you move on. So one really doesn't know